Thank you very much. All right, so we are so pleased to be here. Here we go. All right, is everyone looking at what I'm hoping you're looking at? Our first slide? We're good. Okay, great. So good morning, everyone. My name is Tara, and this is my husband, Sean.
Better.
Also my business partner. Together we run Gourmet by Nature. And we're just thrilled to be able to be here to talk with you, to tell you a little bit about how we started our business and essentially how it's going 5 years in to our business. So we have a few slides to share with you that talks about kind of why we love what we do and also why some things are challenges in the work that we do. And we'll definitely leave it open for some questions so that we can have some conversation afterwards. It's great to be in such good company with some entrepreneurs, people in the industry. So I love the audience already, so thank you. Are you ready?
I think so.
Okay, good. All right.
Tara's much better at screen talking than I am. I play with fire and do a lot of cooking and answer questions.
Yeah, he's the outdoor guy, I'm the indoor girl. So, but we love what we do. So gonna try and advance here. Here we go. Okay, so we'll start with a little bit about our story, about us. So do you want to start?
Yeah, I can. Okay. Yeah. So my training is in the kitchen. My parents had 2 inns growing up, so I very quickly learned where food came from because we grew a lot of our own vegetables and things like that. So gardening is a big part of my life. And I grew up on the Northumberland Strait, so there was a big beach with a tidal area, so that's where I started to learn how to forage. I developed a passion for hunting and fishing and always enjoyed cooking my own food. My mom was a chef, self-taught, and ran our inn, the Immershore Country Inn, which my brother Rob and his wife Mary still run now. And then we moved to the valley and we started another inn, and that's where I took on my culinary career at the Blommen Inn in Wolfville, and I ran the kitchen there probably for 20 plus years. I did study as well. I wrote my papers in Halifax through NSCC at the Akerley campus, and I did a course at Hyde Park and one in California as well at the Culinary Institute of America, and I did my formal training in Prince Edward Island at the Culinary Institute of Canada. So my training is there, and I have a passion for the outdoors. And then when I met Tara, we started a family, and I had been running a kitchen for so long, I started to get a little burnout, and I wanted to see my family more. So we thought maybe we could try and turn a business for a home and raise our kids ourselves. And Tara had a great job with NACC, so I decided that I would take the role at being at home and try and work on our business through the outdoors and showing people how to be able to find some food and cook their food. And I have a real passion for trying to show people how to cook their game properly, because a lot of people hunt and don't understand that the animals that we get from the wild are different than the ones we buy at the store. So the muscles need to be broken down differently and things like that. So I have a real passion for showing people how to prepare their game properly.
And then on my side of the coin, my real job is at the Nova Scotia Community College. I'm an instructor there. And so I have a background in tourism. I teach in the School of Business. I teach a lot of marketing courses, also have experience in events. And so by Sean and I finding each other, we just started a really beautiful thing. In addition to a family, you can see our 3 beautiful children are on the screen here. They are the center of our world. And when we first started playing with the idea of maybe looking at life a little bit differently, we were raising 3 small children, and it was a grind that wasn't really working. And we really just kind of looked at each other and wondered if this was it, right? Is there something more? So we took a really big leap, and Sean left his full-time position as a chef. And we started to kind of put on the table, what are some of the things that we love, and can we make something work out of it? And it's going pretty good 5 years later. So
it really is.
In 2007, we officially sort of started Gourmet by Nature. Sean got licensed as a fishing and hunting guide So that sort of set us on the right path to taking what Sean was really great at and what he really loved, and maybe putting some parameters around that. We utilized the resources that were available locally. So we worked with the Acadia Entrepreneurship Center. Also, there's a program called Build Your Small Business, the BYSB program, that was a partnership between NSCC and the Acadia Entrepreneurship Center. And that really put us in touch with being able to put some structure to this business idea. And so that was really great, helping us put things in motion. This came along right at a time where a lot of people were getting more curious about wild food. The fall would bring like a constant barrage of phone calls of hunters and hunters partners calling Sean to say, okay, we've got the goose. Now, what do we do with it? Like, how do we cook this pheasant? Like all of these questions about how to prepare wild game. And we just realized like we had this opportunity to share a little bit more widely what we already did naturally. Like, so we kind of built on that. We started getting requests for people to have Sean cater like a wild menu, a wild dinner. And then we had some groups that were like hiking enthusiasts or outdoor enthusiasts that Sean would then go out and prepare food outdoors. And so it really, so much of what we do is so like organic in that it kind of just
part of our lives anyway.
Bubbles away. It is how we live our lives. And so it did really take a couple of years for us to find ourselves as a business, but also for people to be aware of what we were trying to create. And it just kind of started to take off. So by 2019, we had a real schedule of events. We had a real website, you know, like we were a real business. And so that was really exciting and really kind of fueled us, moving us forward. So
I think the other thing about that is too, we grew it slowly and to a point where we didn't feel as overwhelmed, and then we were able to grow and with word of mouth and things like that, so that we never felt as overwhelmed as when you take on something like a new business and you have to jump right into it. And where it was part of our lives anyways, we could kind of develop it and bring it out just naturally versus feeling pressured all the time to be, you know, making something work all the time.
Yeah. So that kind of brings us into what we do. We are all about educating people and sharing with people. Our mission is to celebrate wild food, sustainably connect with nature, and enjoy the outdoors in all seasons. So that was really a natural extension of us and how we live and how we are as a family. So we still kind of look at each other every once in a while and go, I can't believe people are paying us to do this, because it's what we do. So it really works. So we do small group experiences. Our magic number is anywhere between 6 and 12. But we go on either side of that. We've done private experiences for 1 or 2 people because there's something very tailored for what they're looking for. We've also done like large groups of 30, as long as we can offer the value and the quality that we want. If we're sure we can get that across to a larger group, we will do that. But for the most part, we're small group. We call them our wild experiences, which include foraging tours, cooking classes. All of our cooking involves cooking with fire. So that's really where it's at for us. We do workshops that will teach people how to, if you can think of it, we want to do it. Like it really is a nice creative piece for us. We also have, on another sort of side of the business, we have our guided hunting and fishing tours. So as a licensed guide, Sean has an outfitting business that he can take people out and do what they're looking for. And then we also have the wild chef. This guy right here is available for catering. And we're finding more and more people are looking for a personalized experience so that they have an anniversary that they want to celebrate, and they're curious to try different foods. And so we take that into their own kitchens, or into the Airbnb that they're renting, and they can have that special local taste of Nova Scotia in a different light. Or we meet them out wherever they're thinking might be cool, and we'll have a setup and we'll cook and we'll try some different things with them. So more of what we do from the guy who does it. So
well, I think one of the reasons we love what we do is because we can be outdoors. And so I have a real passion for being outdoors and finding things that we can use and just showing people to think outside the box, you know, with some of their plants and edibles that we can find. And maybe it's tea, or maybe it's seaweed, or maybe it's me taking people around on the snowshoe line and how to catch a rabbit and then what to do with the rabbit afterwards. So we really are flexible with what people are looking for. And it's just mostly to get people to think outside the box and show them what a beautiful province we have and why we love being out there. And it's important to show an authentic experience. So like maybe we don't always get to get what we're looking for, but then there might be something else we can find along the way, and that we operate in all seasons and they're all dictated by Mother Nature. And it's very important for people to understand that Mother Nature is always the one that's in charge in an outdoor event. And we try and make sure that we have the best time possible. And it may be that we have to reschedule or something too, because if you're dealing with just a fire out on a beach and it's a blowing 90 and windy, like maybe Newfoundland, we wouldn't be able to do it all the time. But
we would, though.
Yeah, we just find it behind a rock. But you know, like, so to show people that you can have a great experience and great food no matter what's happening. We try and feature wild edibles whenever possible, whether that's game if people are interested in that, or whether it's mushrooms or seaweed or wherever the situation is in the event that we're doing. We try and find something from that property to bring into the dish. And we're not going to say that we get everything from that area, because, you know, that's just not sustainable. And it's important for us to show people how to harvest sustainably and bring other things into the dish and then make a great dish, versus something that's like, okay, catkins, they're edible, but they're not great on their own. What can we do with them to bring part of that into the dish that would be good?
Yeah, so we only schedule by season. So we'll only sort of post events or experiences for the upcoming season. And we think we know what we're going to do, but as Sean said, Mother Nature completely dictates what we can do. So if something happens, you know, for example, last year was this incredible year for mushrooms. Like the climate just provided and kept giving and giving mushrooms. Whereas the year before, you were hard pressed to go for a walk anywhere and find, you know, anything in anything that you could forage, right? Because you'd never just take everything or a small patch. So we have our scheduled experiences, but then we try and offer a lot of pop-up experiences as well. So if we know that there's a banner year on, you know, some type of harvest, then we'll create something and it's a pop-up. And sometimes we do that. Well, it just depends where it's happening, right? Whether it's in a beach, in a field, in a forest. We are really adaptable, and that's kind of part of the game here, right? So we set up in a lot of different locations, and we have some that we kind of, sorry, our dog wants out. So we set up in a lot of locations, but you just have to adapt to that and make do with what you have. So,
you know, like for example of that would be when the Capelin started running in Newfoundland, you know, we would set up an event on the beach and show people how to cook Capelin 5 ways or something along that line, because you don't know exactly when they're going to land on the beach, but when they do land on the beach, you want to take advantage of it.
Yeah. So having access to your audience is a really key piece of that, to let them know that there's something new, different, last minute. I'll talk to that in just a second. The other part of what we do, so we take most of our experiences and we go to nature to have those, but we also have on site. So we live in Port Williams, and at our home location, we have an outdoor kitchen. that we have a new shelter built over, so it makes it a little more weather friendly. And we have like a wood-fired oven, a charcoal grill pit with a spit. We have an open fire pit. And so this is now where we can do a lot of those workshop types or cooking classes where we can actually show people, here's a wild starter that we created, and this is how we make our wild sourdough. And here's how you can cook it in a wood-fired oven, because wood-fired ovens are becoming much more of a common sort of community piece. So Wolfville has a community oven that you can book and actually make use of. Dartmouth also has a community oven. Some of your communities might have those as well. So a communal place where you can come in and create food and enjoy that.
And make it a community event. And then our story goes with that, where I met a gentleman up near our woodlot on the property. He's 80 years old, and he helped me bring all the timbers down from our woodlot that we took to his uncle's mill, who milled all the timber for our woodlot, for our structure. And our friend is a timber framer, so he came over and helped us put it together. So, you know, like our story always, everything that we try and source and work with has a bit of a story of where it came from, which property, and how we got it, and that kind of thing. So it doesn't necessarily just have to be about the food for us. It's about how all things came together to make the event work.
Connection to place. Yeah. So that's a little snapshot into what we do. And before we go into why we love it so much and how awesome it is, we thought we'd start with why it's really hard.
Well, some things are hard, and sometimes it can be more difficult. I wouldn't say necessarily hard, but it's evolving into how we can make an experience that isn't going the way you want still really great for the people. And an example of that might be, we're out fishing and everybody wants to catch the huge striped bass, or if we're out on the lake and we're fishing for smallmouth bass and it's not a great day, the fish aren't biting well, then, you know, let's turn it around and maybe we go find some mushrooms to forage. I can show them an eagle's nest, and how the eagle will come down and take a fish from beside the boat and that kind of thing. So you changed what you were looking at to meet the experience of what you can actually do, because the people are going to remember the part of the experience that's memorable, not you just trying to make it work for them. So I think you just have to be adaptable in that sense. Yeah.
And for all the entrepreneurs in the room, like, this slide should just be called "Entrepreneurship is Hard." Like, it's really hard. So in addition to just the day-to-day of running a business and having other parts of life going on, what we do by taking food into the wild and then taking people out into the wild to have these foods, it's complex. It can be complex. So first of all, wild food is a gray area in terms of restrictions, regulations, legislation, and
each provinces are different too.
Yeah. So that's really all we're going to say about that. We very much follow guidelines, but that's, for the most part, a lot of it is guidelines. The government hasn't quite grasped what is yes and what is no. So we always keep in touch with all of our organizations and different agencies, but it still lies in a bit of a gray area. So we then take the responsibility on ourselves to make sure that what we're doing is safe and responsible in any way that we can. So we are definitely fully certified in our food handling and our professional guiding etiquette and values. We have our first aid, all of those things that will ensure the best experience for our guests, first and foremost. Sean and his training with food safety is definitely a key piece to what we're doing, right? Very, very clear on food safety and sanitation, but you're going to talk to that in just a second. This is, it's hard in that, so you can see on some of these images, like we've got this beautiful beach, Long Beach. That is a regular place where we would do a setup, and we like to have like the white tablecloth. We like to have it is a gourmet experience, and because we can make this beautiful food for people, but making sure getting the gear in place is
Sometimes
a little bit of work. And also, you know, this is a snowshoe trail on the bottom left of where we do our winter experiences. So you're really playing with a lot of different aspects, and you have to kind of, and we're going out there, so there isn't running water. If you forget the oil, you forget the oil, right? And you don't have that to be able to do that. So you're adapting for that.
If you break your axe, you break your axe.
That's right. For every one experience that we do, we're probably doing 2 to 3 different trips to that location to prepare, right? Because you're scouting for what is available. What are we going to feature on the menu that day? And you're scouting out, you know, safety, tripping hazards, and can we set that up here? Is there a safe place that we can build a fire? And so, you know, that is a lot of extra for every one experience. Do you want to just talk again about food safety? Because that's, I mean, that's a huge part of it.
Yeah, it is. It is. I think the biggest thing is to make sure that you do have a proper course in food safety. There's a lot of them available now. I think you can do a lot of them online. And just so you have an idea of temperatures, how long things can set, and how cross-contamination is going to happen. And if you don't have running water, what you can do with wipes and rinsing and those kind of things. Because it's very important to make sure that that is first and foremost whenever you're preparing food. And then, you know, when you have a grasp of that, then you can understand what to do and what not to do. So I think that's a big part of it. And that's a big thing the government's going to be worried about with any food. And you can't just go out and serve to the general public. You know, it has to be a private tour and those kind of things too for you to set up. I don't know, like, I think that a lot of that will come as you find out what you've forgotten. So like when you go to do your first tour, you know, you might want to do it with some friends and family first to try and set it up so that if you do forget something, then it'll train you for the next time. Yeah. And it'll make it a little bit easier and flow a little bit easier.
We also try and practice not always zero waste, but minimal impact, because you're packing it in, you're also packing it out. We're not about just throwing anything into the fire. That's Definitely. Really not something that we do. So we try and use, you know, real plates, real cutlery. But then there's the, you know, the aspect of having to get that in and out as well. But it makes a difference because there are no places to put your rubbish when you are in these places. And so we really do think about that when we're preparing and when we're serving.
Yeah, and I also talk to people too about this is a fire that we're cooking over, so we don't put anything in the fire, even paper plates or something like that can be burnt easily until after we're done our cooking and that kind of thing. Just so people think about that, is that this is like our stove, not just something that we're going to throw everything into.
Yeah. And the last one on this slide, you can see our social bar of all our icons for some of the channels that we manage. This definitely falls under why it's hard. Managing social media, and this is the main highway to your customers, right? I mean, this is where it's at. This is how people are communicating now. This is where people are looking for information. This is how we're getting our pieces of pop-ups or really cool things that we're finding. It is a crazy amount of time to manage that, to work with those, for it to be effective. So there's probably 8 more channels that we could have, but we don't, because you can only do so much in the span of a week. So managing the social, we're always trying to educate ourselves and learn how to better work with that, so that we are connecting with not only our key audience, but also potentially new customers that might not know about us. And there's a lot of different ways that we can do that with social. But
and unfortunately, most of that falls on Tara. She deals with a lot of that, because I'm a little,
my job.
I'm
not the chef.
Computer literate.
So moving on past why it's hard. Yeah, this kind of fits there. I'm not even going to grace the slide with the word COVID, but I'll say it. You guys all know it was hard. You know, we were very fortunate that lockdown way back when gave us the opportunity at that time in our business where we could actually just stop and think about who we are and what we do. It didn't really change anything about what we knew we were, but it did help us plan and schedule. And we had a really solid offering that summer of 2020. So after everything went crazy, we came out of the gates running because we're small group experiences, right? That 6 to 12 number was really often falling within those restrictions of gathering limits. And so also because we were based outside, people felt safer to be gathering outside in these small groups. So,
and you can socially distance easily.
We didn't benefit from this experience at all, but we weren't impacted as heavily as a lot of other operations. So we're so thankful for that. We're grateful for that. The fact that everyone in the planet was forced to pivot some version of their business allowed us to sort of explore some different things that we hadn't considered before. In that sort of fall into the winter of 2020, late 2020, everybody online was where it's at, right? Everybody moved online. They were doing cooking classes online. They were offering everything online. And we gave that a shot. We did a cooking class online, a virtual cooking class for like 40 people. It was so awesome.
Yeah, for some new citizens and things. It was a great experience, actually.
Yeah, it was really good. So far outside of where we thought we could be or we should be, but just, trying something out, that was really great. And then really 2021 last year was our most successful season because people were ready. People were ready to move on and get past, and we offered this safe number, this safe sort of experience that had people outside doing different things and capitalizing on this curiousness that people had of food issues, food security, which continues to be a major issue for everyone. But
people were traveling, so we're trying to show people that you don't necessarily have to go a crazy amount of distance to have a good time, and that there are things in your backyard that you can probably experience that you haven't done before and maybe do again yourself. So it definitely opened up some eyes to people to just go outside their own house and things. We did a tour where I just showed people how to cook over a campfire. They just set up in their own yard and do a 3-course meal for something different and not just do it inside with everyone.
Yeah. Okay, so nobody wants to look at this anymore. I know that. On to a happier topic, what we love about this. I'm going to let you do that.
I think I did a little bit of that already.
You did.
Yeah. So I think the biggest thing that I love to do is that every experience is going to be just a little wee bit different. So you're not put into a box where everything's always going to be the same. We can find different ingredients. Every time I walk on the beach, I see something a little bit differently than I did the last time. I'll see a different ingredient that I might not have noticed before. I'll have a different idea or epiphany of what I want to try in a different dish. And that's me being a chef and being creative. Just like a carpenter will go through a wood pile and see something that he wants to carve or something, he'll see that in that item. So that's the part that I really love about it, and just letting people experience those flavors and hopefully enjoy them as much as I did putting them together. And just being able to set up a meal like in the top slide here that is beautiful in a beautiful place. Like my office, I overlook some of the most beautiful places in the world. Is what I always feel so lucky is I just get to be outside enjoying that. And we have a slide of our garden where we'll grow a lot of our own ingredients. So the things that we can't source or find, a lot of times we've grown ourselves. Like I'm still using our own sweet potatoes and squash and those kind of things from our garden last year. And then, just making an experience for people so that they can see that we have great things around us. We can make great products and great meals.
Yeah, just that creative outlet that we said before, like kind of looking out and seeing what's out there, but also like what's not out there, what's nobody else doing, what can we try? And just the way that we're structured, we can try it once, right? And there's no guarantee that we'd never do it again, but maybe we will. Maybe we'll do it every other week. So we do these catch and cook events, whether it's striper bass or rabbits. And we kind of let, of course, nature dictates that, but also our guests. They are either, you know, they really love it or they really, really love it. And so we do that.
Well, like, we sure hope anyway.
We keep going with what works and what we haven't tried yet. So that is really great. We also, like, our family is paramount, so we make sure that it fits. We bring our kids to all of our events as much as we can, and they're often off in the distance running and collecting crabs from the shore or with their own fishing rods further down the beach. We try and get them to haul the gear. We haven't quite figured out the right reward for that, but it works, and it just maintains what we'd be doing anyway, right? We're outside all seasons, going and exploring, and yeah, can you believe people pay us to do that?
I think another thing too that we want to show people too is just to try and use some of the underutilized things or things that people don't enjoy. And we've done a few events where we've had chain pecker, which is a basic species here on our lakes, that is going to stay with us, just like coyotes. They're not going to go anywhere. So I'm trying to show people that we can actually fill up those and make good products. We've done a pop-up where I had the chain peckerel versus haddock, and a lot of people like the chain peckerel as much or more than the haddock. And just to educate people that, okay, they're here now, we need to live with it, and we need to figure out how we can deal with it in a better way. So just trying to spin on it and think outside the box and come up with good ingredients and good meals instead of just throwing them in the woods.
Yeah. Okay, so we're coming for a grand finale finish. The next slide is our big, it's our launch. You guys are the first ones to see this. So the last few months we've been working on our new outdoor kitchen. So our outdoor mobile unit that we are going to be having access to. So this just allows us a little bit more, to do more, to be more, to go different places. So we're still naming the Wild Wagon here, but it will allow us to have some infrastructure to pull this to, you know what, a beachside, trail side, like picture coming off of like the Grossmorn Mountain or Cape Split, and we could just hand you some sumac aid or a hot chagatee, or, you know, or a full gourmet plate of delicious wild food.
And it'll also give us a way to organize and have our infrastructure all together, kept in one place, and be able to go to the events easier and have it all stored properly. You know, as you grow, you find how you try and keep everything in one place and everything and that kind of thing. But then if it's raining out, I can't put it in the back of the truck, so I have to figure out how to get it there. So it'll allow us to have the infrastructure to be able to move it a little bit easier and keep it organized easier.
Yeah, so we're really excited of what is to come. So keep your eyes peeled for this, the upcoming season, when we put this beauty on the road, coming to a beach or a trail near you. And then the other images on this slide are really, we are always excited to just experiment with different foods, right? So you've got the sumac and different greens from the shore, some chaga, mushrooms. They're all there, and we just get to see what's available and see what we can do with it. So that's kind of,
yeah, that's us in a nutshell, I would say.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Thank you so much, Sean and Tara. That was great. So we're going to open the floor now for anyone who have any questions at all for Sean and Tara.
I'm just going to stop sharing here so we can all see each other a little bit more up close.
Perfect. So yeah, so if anybody has any questions, just unmute yourself and ask away.
I love the attention to detail that you use, like the sandwich board on the on the beach. Like, I think that was really, really cool, and just the nice little details. You know, it's interesting. I think for those of us that have been, you know, through the food and beverage business. At the best of times, it's a low margin industry, I think. But at the same time, I look at the experiences that you're offering, and having done the massive ones where you're carrying tons and tons of stuff in, I've started to see the benefit of what I can pull out of a backpack and the story I can tell somebody with something much more, I don't want to use that word simplistic, but something that seems more authentic and real. Because I think, when we talk about lots of these examples, unfortunately, we go to those big spectacular things, and, you're looking at, all of those really, big operations, the dining on the ocean floors, which is nothing wrong with that type of experience. But, I love what you've been able to do, because you're right. You can, on the dime, turn this thing and take it where you need to take it. And I love the fact about the trailer. Like, I think that is so cool. So
Awesome.
But no.
Lori has a question about the trailer, actually, that just popped up. I'm just going to go into the chat and read that.
Yeah, and I think what you were mentioning there too, authentic. It's okay to fail at some things as long as you can still make a good experience. And that's a big thing for us as a family, is to be authentic and honest and real. If I did a snowshoe hare, I could catch rabbits and go up and place them in the snare so that we would always have a rabbit caught when we went. But to me, that's not real. So what we do is I will set snares a day or so ahead of time. And if we go through and the conditions are right, because this is where Mother Nature dictates what's going to happen, and we don't catch a rabbit, then I'll explain to them why we probably didn't catch a rabbit and stuff. Because if they're going to go out and do this for themselves, there are going to be days where it's not working for them. And they have to understand why it's not working and what they can do differently, or what they need to do differently in that situation to try and make it work. So, the same, and this is the same with fishing. You never know what's going to bite the other end of your line. So it's important for me to tell them about that and understand that you're not always going to catch the biggest fish, but boys, are we going to have some good fish to eat afterwards, because I'm going to make sure that we have something there to eat. But to let them know that it's real, honest, and authentic, because sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't, and that's the way that nature is.
Yeah.
So Lori's question on there is
Yeah,
it's a good one about
Hits the nail right on the head, and we're working on some of those things.
A big conversation. So yeah, this is definitely a process, and we're so fortunate that Nova Scotia has it together when you're talking about mobile food units, I think they're calling it. But I mean, food trucks they exploded like 10 years ago and became really trendy 5 years ago. And so now they're understood, so the legislators can put those parameters around it. So not only do they have a full section of public health that's devoted to mobile food units, they actually have connected with a business development advisor that sent all the information and contacts of people that I need to connect with in order to make this work. So we are going under the premise of a mobile food trailer without having any type of commitment to setting up anywhere. But yeah, we'll have public health in there. It'll be an inspected unit. We'll have the right permits to be able to operate within the area that we're moving the trailer in and around. And honestly, I couldn't have asked for much more when it came to looking for information. It was so set up. It was like, oh yeah, we have that folder, and they just sent me information. And so at least they had it all together. Like, the looking part wasn't the hardest part. It's just the sifting part and all the paperwork that's attached to it. But it was just so nice to be able to have it. Oh yeah, we know what that is. Okay, here's what you need.
Yeah.
So,
and it'll be different for you to set up and just serve to the general public, or if you're doing private events and those kind of things, or if you're doing classes and those kind of things. So it does have a different bit and the parameters there as well. The hardest part, and as it should be, is just if you want to serve to the general public like a restaurant, then there's going to be a lot more to go through and make sure that you're setting it up properly.
right?
Yeah.
We just like to make things a lot more difficult here in Ontario. I'm glad to hear
Well,
that.
understood. I mean, it shouldn't be easy when you're talking about food. That's a really essential piece, right? There's a lot of opportunity for things. There's a lot of risks anyway. But yeah, we've got to. I mean, it'll be challenging to get that. You know, we have to have running water and wastewater catchment, and then we have to have a plan to dispose of that. Like, it's a process, but like, we're kind of doing that anyway, and we didn't have any infrastructure around us, right? We have to do all of that stuff anyway, so this is just nice.
Yeah, and the biggest thing for the health inspection agency is that what they need to be able to do is if there's an outbreak of something, they have to be able to trace it.
Right.
So in order to trace it, you have to have it set up, and they have to be able to find out where the food came from. So if you're just driving around randomly in a truck that's not inspected or anything else, there's no way for them to figure out where it's coming from. So they need to be able to have an understanding of why and what went wrong, and figure out who's going to get sick and who has gotten sick. And that's where the tracing comes in from.
Yeah, and
if you're
equally to
just,
say,
yeah,
if you got sick, we know that wasn't us.
right.
You know what, you know,
Yeah,
like,
it's right. And that's the difference between a private event, because you know the numbers, and everybody's going to say, well, that's where I was, and that's how I got it. Right. And so like it makes it a little bit easier to do the tracing that way.
yeah.
Awesome. Thank you.
So if they want it, like, sorry, if you like for serving the check of tea, do they have to inspect it? Like, because we do all this, but like I say, when I serve the kombucha, I just look out, oh, it's a beautiful day on the water. Or if I serve the tea, you know, like we do all our jellies and stuff, and we just kind of, you know, like we have the food handling course, we have the outdoor wilderness course, the first aid courses up your yin yang, but we just, you know, and our kitchen is, you know, it's very clean. We've worked in kitchens and restaurants, so.
Yeah,
Do
they will want to, like, if you're serving anything just to the general public, they'll probably want it to be somewhat set up in a commercial kitchen, or have an idea of where the stuff is being prepared and that kind of thing. And like I said, the biggest thing is if you're just set up and serving to anyone randomly, that's where the biggest problem comes in, is my understanding.
Yeah, and the Chaga tea, Lori, that falls under that gray area that we were talking about, wild foods. Like, it's not, it's relatively unregulated, really.
Yeah, that's why I can't find a lot about it. Like, because, you know, Chantal's fiddleheads, the goose tongue greens, and the crow's feet, and the different seaweeds we all use. Like, you know, I take people out on a foraging tour. I eat these. I can't tell you to eat them, but I eat them. This is what happens to me. So, you know.
Yeah, and I always tell people too, whenever we're having a wild experience, like, wild food is something new that's being introduced to your body. So where some people can have lactose and some people can't have lactose and everything, it's really good idea to use moderation, especially if you're out picking stuff for the first time and things like that yourself. You're 100% sure you've ID'd it, you know what you have, but yet you still have to start off small, I say, because you don't want to just throw this radical new into your body and then it not agree with it. So, you know, moderation is generally the key to sourcing wild foods and eating them as well, because everybody's body chemistry is a little bit different.
Yeah, we're really keen to be part of the solution. Like, we want to be advocates for, you know, this to be more regulated, but we're not the ones sticking up our hands saying, hey, you guys over here, like, can you take a look at this wild food? But I think we're going to get there, because, you know, in 2020, it was hazardous to your health to go to the grocery store, right? Like, it was a real potential, like, you could get harmed. So people are looking to their backyards and saying, well, what can I access and what can I have safely? And now supply issues are taking that stage, and what do we have access to? So I think that we will get there, and different provinces look at it differently. And we will definitely get on board and support moving us in the right direction, but we're just not waving the flag just yet.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, just, I guess we're kind of going backwards. Everyone said, you know, like, people will come and do tours with us. How do you know all this? How do you not know this? Like, you know, the only fertilizer we use on our garden is cow manure and seaweed. And they said, well, how do you know this stuff? Well, that's when you're brought up poor. That's what we did, you know, we went out and hunted, and, you know, I guess we're considered local vegetarians. We only use what we harvest from the from the woods. The deer are very humane, and partridge and rabbits, and the fish, we catch our own fish, flounder, halibut, mackerel, and herring, and and we raise 40 meat kings every 2 years. So that's the only chicken we eat. So, but I mean, we were brought up doing that. We didn't. That was survival, I guess. So.
Right.
But it's amazing, and people pay you for it. You want to come and play with me, and you're going to pay me.
Yeah, well, I think that, but if you never grew up and had that experience, there's
Oh, I
only,
know.
Yeah.
and I've even toyed with, showing people how to, like, we'll document how we start raising our chickens, and then I slaughter them all myself. So, I do a hot dip on them, I flock them, and I eviscerate them, and then I freeze them, and then my kids name them all, so we always have different named chickens in our freezer. But so it's just a little bit more interesting, but where things are coming from.
Yeah, and that's part of what we do, right? We're educating people and sharing for people that didn't have their grandparents there to teach them these skills, right? They're just forgotten skills. We're not doing anything new.
Yes.
It's just if you didn't grow up with a hunting background, we get people bringing their children on our experiences to show them so that they can learn and then go out and practice this. And that's exactly what we want, right?
Exactly.
We're just here about sharing and sharing information.
It's just a new way of mentoring.
So Margot has a couple of questions.
I was just wondering, when you book your events, how do you, because you're like small scale, and that's sort of what I do at home. It's small scale, 15 or less when I do retreats. And I'm looking at bringing something like this, but I'm on a farm. So it would be sort of farm. We have the woods for wild harvesting. Do you book individual tickets? Like if I want to go to one of your events, can I just buy a ticket, or do I have to bring my own group with me?
Yeah, we do
both.
individual.
Yeah, we do individual mostly, but we do have people that will book whole events as well, or they'll cater, and then we'll set up, like for someone that's booking the whole group, we might be able to cater to the event to exactly what they're looking for. There's different aspects of what they want, and then Tara can tell you exactly how she does it with the tickets and things, because she's got it all set up that they can book right online.
Yeah, so we kind of try and do it all ourselves. So we use Wix as our platform for our website. And that's really user friendly for, I'm sure there's people in the room that use that, but Wix you can actually buy their, it's part of their events section. And so that part isn't free, but I pay that. And that allows me to post my events on our website, and it does all the ticket sales on that way. I did it in 2021. It's so brilliant. Before that, we were doing e-transfers and cash handovers, and it was a nightmare, honestly. Now it's completely managed and documented, and it's easy. And that's just an addition to the Wix platform. So that way we can do, if I know there's a group, I'll just put a group offering, and I'll put it at whatever the price is for the group, and one person will go in and purchase it that way. Or I'll set it to like maximum 10 tickets, and then they'll sell that way. And like you can even wait list people so that you have contact, and that's how we do all of our event bookings.
And it's great too, because if there's a reason that we can't do an event because there's a tornado or we have to reschedule, and then somebody can't make it, then we can refund them a lot easier that way as well, and then we can sell the ticket to someone else.
Okay. And do you have any suggestion? Because in 2020, I was trying to do little like small private groups because of restrictions and all that stuff. So it was like you bring your own group of people. And the hardest issue I had with putting together a weekend event was to find a chef around here. Because they all have like their own little projects and their own things. So do you have like any suggestions on how to go about with working with chefs? And
well, you can come to one of my cooking classes, and we can help you expand your horizons a little bit.
I want to host, and I want to grow food and produce.
Yes.
So
yeah. You know what, Margot? Maybe connect with NBCC or the Culinary Institute in PEI in Charlottetown, and go and talk to some of the recent grads, like their grads, because those chefs recently trained, they're probably holding down a job, but wouldn't they love to just step outside for a weekend and maybe work on that? They would have everything that you would need to do a weekend worth of that, but maybe not so tied into like an executive chef position that they wouldn't be able to step away for that. So maybe just someone in the vicinity that could travel and that you could be your go-to person.
'Cause I do want to go to one of your events, because what you're doing is exactly what I've been having in mind for years. I just don't know how to put everything in motion, like the outdoor kitchen in the middle of my garden and my orchard.
Huh.
So we pick food, and we have a operating dairy farm, and I have an alpaca farm. So it's the same as many people here, raising my own food. I love that part. And it's
Margot,
like,
come on over. Come on
Right.
over anytime. You tell us when we're coming, we'll build something that suits.
Yeah, and I think the other thing is that, you know, not to get too carried away with how much infrastructure you need to do the wild event, because, you know, as long as you get your fire set up properly with something to be able to put a grill over it, you can do a lot with it. The hardest part of cooking with fire, if you want just to do that outdoors, is making sure you manage the fire properly and have the right coal base to cook what you want to cook. You don't want to have too much flame, or there's going to be making everything black and sooty and that kind of thing. And you want to take a look at what wood you're using for different things, for the heatness of the coal and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So the biggest thing there is just learning to work with your fire, and then you can build your menu and then grow the kitchen to see how it's going to suit you, versus putting in a lot of infrastructure saying, well, I wish I would have done this a little bit differently.
Yeah. The other gift that COVID has given us is that hand sanitizer and all of those products that sanitize, right? Those are things that you can take with you out into these places, that you can ensure that people will have clean hands when they're consuming, that you can actually have sterile equipment, that, you know, like those weren't, I guess they were always available, but it's the norm now. People understand that, you know, oh, I need some hands, you know.
Yeah, well, the biggest thing is there's an awareness now that they need to have their hands sanitized a little bit more often, and things when they're working with that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Oh, that's great. Lots of great information and great questions. Tara and Sean, is there any closing comments you'd like to make? We're very conscious of the time. We know everybody's really busy.
Yeah, well, just maybe Margot and Lori could coordinate their time to come to Nova Scotia at the same time. We'll get something set up. We'll have a little reunion.
There you go.
Thank you everyone for your comments. Also, I did see that some other people had commented, and I guess right back at you.
Yeah.
Thank you for being here. And
Chantel, I can appreciate the kitchen that you're trying to run there, because zero waste is a very difficult to do. And I ran a kitchen for many years, and we tried to have a way to use everything that we had, but it's a very challenging thing to do, especially if you're not running the restaurant all the time, because then how do you deal with some of that stuff? So, you know, good on you.
Thank you.
And
Okay, well,
thank you. It's all good.
Thanks. Thank you everyone for attending, and it's been a great group. And don't forget to do your little survey at the end. It's a great help to us. And thank you everyone.
Thanks,
Have
everyone.
a great day, everyone.
Bye.